The day has come. I'm so excited. I don't even think it really clicked that this is the day I'm going to see Madam VP live and just like listen to a candid conversation. I do not know who the moderator is. I haven't checked social media if it has been announced. We have a couple of more hours to go. It's been a really great day. I feel like it's going to really click once I'm like at the venue, in security line, doing all that good stuff, talking to other people who are just as excited. So I'm still chill, but trust me, I'm really excited. A little bit about yesterday. Ticketmaster did give us updates that it's a clear bag policy, which is totally fine with me, because if you've gone to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, it's clear bags all day. So I'm ready for that. I prepped my purse last night. Fluffed out the curls because with Georgia's humidity and just weather overall, it's unpredictable. And so if my hair poops up at the top, at least it can still match the vibe of the curls. Basically, I'm just gonna give you Diana Ross no matter what the Georgia weather says, but I do have a headband in my purse just in case it's like a little too unruly. Other than that, I have moments to just like calm myself and really just keep easing into the day until it's officially time to leave. So enough of that. Probably my next steps is when I'm out the house. So yeah.
Look up at him or move over in his direction, he'll move real quick. Oh, it's at the Tabernacle.
All the way down to the very end. Welcome in,
all the way to the office of the Vice President of the United States, and I got an email that said, Lynae, we'll be in Atlanta. Can you come by the show? And I thought that was so beautiful because if you've read the book, if you've watched her over the past few years, you've seen her resume, it's already clear that she cares. But it's also very clear that she means the connections that she intends to make and to keep them over periods of time. So that was my little independent production. I was paying for everything by myself, literally hiring old students. And maybe 2 years later, I got my own show called The People's Breed. And by the time things are announced, they're already fully underway. So I'm in a producer's meeting, I'm hashing out ideas, and I get a call, and I skip it because I'm in a meeting. Then that little text message comes down and says, Lynae, this is Kamala Harris. And she just is giving me my congrats and telling me that she's been watching and I'm so smart and I have all these instincts and to not let anyone tell me what to do. And now I'm here today. Ambassador Young's here. You know, I've always, every time I come back to Atlanta, it's just kind of like, in many ways, coming back to the home. It's about a place that has been a birthplace for so much that has been about important American leadership. And so I'm very honored to be with everyone this afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you. Literacy, we're lacking in. You know, people don't ask questions, they just consume. So I was very grateful to have your words added to the zeitgeist, to people's lexicon and understanding of this political moment. It has a lot to do, or it reminds me a lot of why I started the parking lot. I wanted to demystify certain things. And while disinformation was spreading like wildfire during the election season, it still is to this day. I'm sorry to put today on it. If y'all could please just stop lying and do what you set out to do. But for that reason, I wanted to ask you when you knew you had to write this book.
Well, the reason I wrote the book, there are many reasons. One is, it's part of American history, what I wrote. And just think about those 107 days. It was unprecedented. So, a president of the United States was running for re-election. And 3.5 months before the election, decided not to run. Then the sitting vice president decided to take up the mantle, running against a former president of the United States, who had been running for 10 years, with 107 days to go. And let history also reflect the unprecedented nature of the fact, if you don't mind understanding.
Yes,
And it was the closest election for president of the United States in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate. He does not have a mandate.
With the intention also of knowing that history will write about this moment. And I was sure that my voice would be present in the history. That's why I had a person touch. We absolutely had to. Speaking of disinformation, something I've noticed throughout the book, a theme rather, was how many names that you dropped that were crucial in this effort to sort of undermine your every step and progress of disinformation, like Elon Musk and his acquisition of Twitter, like Laura Loomer, or whatever crazy. Are we cussing? Even Joe Rogan giving you the runaround on a platform, he spews nothing but misinformation, and we see these same actors with seemingly even larger platforms right now. So I wonder, were you thinking about that picture of cause and effect that you were painting as you were writing?
Well, look, the book was just accomplished facts. Sometimes the truth is difficult to speak and for others difficult to hear, but it doesn't mean it's not true. And yeah, I mean, there is a lot of manipulation that is happening, and I do point out specific individuals that have acquired a huge microphone and are targeting, in many ways, people that they otherwise believe are vulnerable or open to this disinformation. I was was that Russia targeted black voters. Because they assumed and believed this would be a population of people who were open based on a lived experience to distrusting the system and their government. And manipulated that. And I actually would say, with a bit of irony perhaps, that I'd say, okay, so people don't want to talk about race. Well, this adversary of ours knows America's Achilles heel and has now made this issue, if you don't want to discuss it in any other context, a national security issue. And that was a nation state doing it. And by the way, the history of mis and disinformation is not exclusive to social media in this moment. It's been going on for centuries, whether it was sending out leaflets, dropping them from planes, but normally and historically, mis and disinformation campaigns that would then touch a lot of people, the resources to do that, really only nation states could do that against their adversaries. Now, because of technology, the entry point has lowered. And this is part of the good part of technology. We've democratized people's voices. If you have something good to say, it can reach a lot of people. And if you are spewing this and disinformation and you have figured out the right way to do it, that it speaks to someone's emotions and fear, that can also spread quickly to a lot of people. And so in the book, I talk about specific people, yes, who have acquired the tools or who have a skill. The people who are trying to weaken our democracy and spread fear and division, they're not without skills. And I mentioned a couple of them in the book who did just that during these 107 days. I talk about the fact that as Vice President of the United States and the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, I had 2 jobs during those 107 days, but my first job was being Vice President. So when Hurricane Helene happened, I left the campaign trail. There were a few times I had to leave the campaign trail. I decided to leave the campaign trail to do my job as Vice President. That was one of them. I talked in the book about how I was then talking with families who were survivors of that extraordinary tragedy. So much life was lost and everything. And there was this whole campaign, one must believe, by our political adversaries, to tell people who are struggling to figure out where their loved ones are and they've lost their home, that the Biden-Harris administration was not providing much support through FEMA. And you guys remember that?
Yes.
They were saying, oh, if they say they're going to give you $750, which is what people could get immediately without having to fill out a bunch of forms until they got more. Oh, that's all that you're getting. Well, they're not going to help you. And what ended up happening, because this is just one example of what mis and disinformation does, it harmed people. Because then people didn't apply for help believing there would be none. And what statisticians and demographers, people have shown me after the campaign, after the election was over, is if you look at where that mis and disinformation happened, you will see voting trends that were consistent with that. So when we talk about this issue of mis and disinformation, it touches so many things that it is more than about one's political reputation. It's more than about an election. It is about what harms people in terms of their well-being and their ability to have access to the information that are the tools for their empowerment. And I would say that in our democracy, while we can hold on to it, we each have the power to play a role, just like you say, Lynae, whether it be talking to one neighbor, or in the context of your church, in the context of your civic organization, in the context of your workplace, to invite conversations that one detect what you know to be misinformation and find ways to bring people into a conversation around what we know to be shared facts. Because I've been thinking about that and how I apologizing to anybody for who she is, I find that very respectable.
Yeah. And we have to shift our mindset. We're going to continue to shoot ourselves in the foot with how fast and how vastly we can communicate messages if we want to pick and choose who has the right to say something.
Well, you know, you remind me of something, it's a separate point about respectability, but my mother had many sayings, and one of them is she would say, honey, just because somebody has good manners, don't necessarily make them a good person. And, you know, like people say, oh, how do you, they'll ask me, how do you feel about so-and-so saying this about you, and here's how I feel about it. God will judge us not based on what other people say about us, but on our deeds and what we actually do.
Yeah. Yep.
But you're right, and I did write about it in the book because it was something. So I did ask her to come, and I was very happy to have her because she is very talented, and she also speaks to culture. She speaks to people who need to know that they're in the room and are invited into the room and should belong in the room. But there were people, when I did that, who were friends and meant well, but said to me, Kamala, maybe you shouldn't have done that. You're sending a signal that maybe, right? And I was like, I think we'll be okay. But you're exactly right to raise that because it wasn't traditional.
Right.
And it didn't comport with people's, what they thought were the norms around a person who runs for president and who they should include in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what's wrong with our politics right now. Is we decided who looks good in the room and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, the people who aren't in the room know they're not in the room, are aware of that. And if we say that we are for the people, it's about everybody. I've often said to my team, when we're sitting in, you know, a fancy office, and most recently my office was in the West Wing, and I would look at my team and I'd say, I want us to all sit back and listen to who we're not hearing from. Which requires one to have some level of basic curiosity, if not awareness, of who the people are. To then know who's not in the room. And that means requiring that you are modest enough, humble enough, to figure out you don't know everybody. And go about learning that, especially if you want to be a leader of any sort, and in particular, elected leader. Feel powerless. And the other point I'll make is this. This thing didn't just happen overnight.
Right.
And if we think that this is chaotic, I would offer us another explanation. We are witnessing a high velocity event. It feels like chaos. But what it in fact is a swift implementation of a plan that has been decades in the making.
Yeah. Talk about it.
The Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation. I talk in the book about, look, if you combine, just think of it this way, the celebrity of Ronald Reagan with the base level of discourse of Newt Gingrich and the nativism of Pat Buchanan. Look at the path that we charted to where we are today.
Yep.
Check that out. This didn't just happen overnight. So if we're to do the work that we know is about reclaiming the country that we love in a way that we are back on a path toward what we know is about respect and defense of the Constitution of the United States, let's start with some basics.
Right.
We have to see how we got here to understand that there's going to be some deep work involved in what we do going forward, because it's bigger than one election cycle. And it is going to include dealing with mis and disinformation. It is going to include dealing with trust and figuring out how in every way from community on up we can build that back into communities. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think it's a big mistake And we cannot, to your point, I think, Vanee, we cannot be nostalgic.
Correct.
About it all and think the way we're going to deal with the debris is to reconstruct what was, when a lot of it was what worked. In my entire career, elected DA, Attorney General, Senator, Vice President, would in some way be a backstop to this kind of destruction. And instead what we have seen is some of the most powerful people in the world bend the knee to a tyrant. Bend the knee in the most feckless way. I use the F word. But what we have also seen, back to your point about power, is let's take a look at what happened just a couple weeks ago when they tried to stifle free speech because they couldn't take a political satirist, Jimmy Kimmel, because of this thin-skinned man in the White House, charging federal agencies, which are your taxpayer dollars that pay for that agency to exist, and it's supposed to work on behalf of the people, and they tried to silence free speech. But you know what happened? The people spoke with their pocketbooks. As a most recent example of your point, which is the power of the people. It is with the people, and I think that there are plenty of people that have been feeling so upset, is just a light way of saying it, about what has happened, and feeling like, what does it matter? Does it matter? Maybe this is what they want, whoever that may be. And I would say to all of us, I know this is not what we want. And so we cannot give up, and we cannot tire, and we can't let them take our power from us. Don't hear no, unless it's coming from your parents. I like to say, I eat no for breakfast. I don't hear no until about the 10th time. Because in your life, you may be told many times, oh, you're too young for that. Oh, nobody like you has done that before. Oh, they're not ready for you. Well, oh, it'll be a lot of hard work. And don't you listen. And have ambition. Don't let the world or any situation knock that out of you. It is good to have ambition. It is good to have ambition. And so that's what I would say to you as a young leader here's the thing I believe, we're all born as leaders, and it's just a matter of when we decide to activate it. And you being here right now asking that question tells me you are ready.
Trying to wait for my ride share is so chaotic. There's so many people. Alright, let me jump right into it because it's late and I feel like also writing on my Substack about this experience and uploading on TikTok and Twitter and just all the good things. Like a lot of footage I'm going to sift through, not only for this vlog but just all my other outlets. But anyways, I have a few notes and here is the book. If you are attending one of the tour stops of the book tour, a physical copy comes with every ticket. And so I already listened to the book through Audible, and I feel like I came into this event with like a whole wave of emotions and experiences because, you know, I followed, you know, the book, you know, before the conversation. So I implore everyone to check out 107 Days and to kind of like put yourself into VP shoes of how not only was she balancing being the vice president but also running a presidential campaign in such a short amount of time. And the moderator for tonight was Lynae Vanee. She is a content creator, but honestly she's much more than just creating content on social media. But one of her famous series online is Parking Lot Pimpin', and she also has a Revolt TV show. And so she was a great surprise to moderate, and I really liked from like a lot of the questions she posed to VP Harris. It was always through the lens or through the perspective of what it was like being a Black woman and navigating these spaces. And I really liked that type of angle almost kind of like allow VP Harris to like open up more, because it's very specific being a Black woman and experiencing these experiencing so much. The stakes were so high for this short presidential campaign run, and it's like she did it all with grace, with intellect, with experience, all the qualifications that you will want a presidential candidate to have, and it is on top of already being vice president of the United States and not negating her responsibilities there. It was a very insightful conversation, and honestly the overall sentiment that not only I felt and the crowd felt, not only as we waited in line but in the audience, it was a sense of joy again that we experienced last year during her campaigning. And I thought I lost that bit of like sense of like joy that I still have for this country, the optimism I had back then. I felt a bit of it again tonight, and I feel like that is what we all need as we go through these trying times, that we find joy in all the little things, the big things and the big things and the little things. And overall I think that's a sentiment to just keep up with the fight, but don't lose your joy and don't lose sight of, you know, being connected with people and not being like, I don't know, and not losing hope. And so another thing that I really like any Atlanta crowd, whether it's a concert, event, this book conversation, the energy was so magnetic. I'm not gonna lie. the way like VP Harris was like energetic, we were engaged. It was a talkback church, honestly, between the audience and just the energy that she gave on stage. It felt, listen, let me just say this. If she has moves politically for 2028, we gonna stand right beside her. Those in the crowd, we gonna stand right beside her. And period. Listen, I know it feels like the democracy is holding on by a thread, but listening to the conversation tonight, it gave me a sense of like, once again, optimism, and like the people still hold the power. Despite what's happening in our world and what's going on, the people still hold the power, and she reminded us all of that tonight. And so that's definitely something that I'm going to carry moving forward. I really enjoyed connecting with the people on my row, and just as we were just all energized, like once again, it was a talk back audience, and we were engaged. And yeah, so thank you for watching my vlog. I'm Lynae, and please like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah.